Okay, let's get started. So, welcome everybody. Just to let you know, in case you missed it, this session is being recorded. We're going to put it online so that people who weren't able to make it today are able to catch up with it later. As you've all come in very wonderfully, you've turned off your cameras and your microphones, which we really appreciate. Again, that's just to help us with the recording. Welcome to our first lunchtime listen. This is a new format that we're trying out as one of our outreach options from Enquire. So we will be asking you at the end what you think of it, if it's worked for you, if it's worth doing again. We hope that it will be really helpful and informative for you. Our session today is on working together. So it's going to be a conversation all about how parents, carers, and professionals can work together to support the best interests of children and young people with support needs so that they can get the most from their education. So some housekeeping before we start. Like I said, the session's being recorded. It's going to be available on our YouTube later on. Please keep your cameras and your microphones off during the session. If you do have questions, you can stick them in the chat box. We've prepared a few questions that we're going to sort of use as the foundation, I suppose, for our conversation. But if there's anything that you would like to ask us, you're welcome to stick it in the chat. We'll try as best as we can, hopefully to address any questions that you have anyway. But if you are going to ask a question, please keep it nice and vague. We don't want to hear children's names or teachers' names, school names, anything like that. We want to keep it private and respectful of everybody involved. So first, let me introduce myself. So my name is Beth, and I'm an Advice and Information Officer at Enquire. Enquire is the advice and information service for additional support for learning in Scotland. So we provide advice and information about support at school and children's rights, and we provide that advice and information to parents, carers, professionals, and children and young people themselves. There's a few different ways that we do that. So this is one of them, our new lunchtime listens, but we also have a wider outreach program as well. We've also got websites. We've got enquire.org.uk, which is our website for parents and professionals. And then we've got reach.scot, which is our website for children and young people. We've also got a helpline that you can contact us on. The helpline, you can call us. We've got web chat. You can email us or fill in our online web form as well. And we also have social media and a newsletter that you can sign up to if you'd like to keep in touch and hear about upcoming events. I'm going to share my screen now so you can see all of that information. Let me get started. Let me launch the PowerPoint. There we go. So yeah, there's lots of different ways that you can reach and get in touch with us. I'm very thankful today that we've been joined by SJ from Partners in Advocacy and Sandra from Resolve Mediation, and I'm going to give them a second just now to introduce themselves. So SJ, would you like to go first?
Yeah, hello everybody. My name is SJ and I have the pleasure of working for Partners in Advocacy as a service manager, and we work in Partners in Advocacy as independent advocacy workers to support children and young people to have their views heard and to be a part of processes, to understand and recognise their rights and to empower themselves to be involved in decisions that are about them. So it's lovely to be here today. Thanks everyone for having me.
Thanks, SJ. And Sandra, would you like to introduce yourself and a bit about Resolve?
Hi there, yeah, I'm Sandra Mitchell, and I'm the service manager at Resolve Independent Mediation Service. And we work right across Scotland in 17 of the local authorities across Scotland, delivering independent mediation when there's disputes between families and schools and local authorities, as people have the right to access independent mediation when things are not getting resolved. So yeah, I'm a mediator with our team, and we've got a team of 4 other mediators. And yeah, thanks for asking me along as well today, Beth, and hopefully I'm looking forward to joining in this conversation about constructive communication and conversations.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks very much, Sandra. I'm going to stop sharing now just so that you can see us all better. But we'll stick that screen back up again at the end so that you can see that information again if you would like it. So I think we should probably get right to it. Just to let you know, the session, like I've said, is a little bit different to our webinars that we've done before, and we're not doing a presentation or a Q&A, because really what we want to do today is just have a bit of a chat and focus on the ideas and the information and understanding we can get from SJ and Sandra. So like I said, you can put questions in the chat, but we've got a few things prepared that hopefully will keep that conversation going and helping to discuss what we mean when we say working together. So that is actually the first question. So we're talking about working together, and for most people listening, we know that means working with schools, with parents, with carers, with children and young people, maybe with local authorities as well. So the first question is, what does working together mean for you in both of your roles, in terms of your experience of why working together is important and what impact it has on children and young people? SJ, would you like to jump in first?
Yeah, certainly can. I guess, yeah, it's taking it back to, for us, we work directly with the children and young people, and the benefits we see from supporting those young people to feel enabled to take part in those conversations about their education and what's happening around them within school is invaluable. Again, I'm going to keep everything really vague, but we worked with a young person who was really set on knowing their additional support needs, what was going on for them in school, what was happening, and they were only allowed into their meetings for the last 10 minutes of the meeting. So I guess for me, working together it's about taking all aspects of a child or young person's support and including the people that know about it, but also going direct to the source and asking the young person, what is it that would benefit you in this situation? And that young person thrived from then being with their involvement to be able to contribute to their education, to contribute to their plans, to ask for a CSP, to make sure things were in place. It was really empowering for them. And also it brought all of the other supports together. It brought in the support of social work. It brought in the support of teachers and knowing exactly how to work for this young person, and it actually alleviated some of the stress that pastoral care and parents were feeling going through that process, because they felt as though they were all then working together as a team to get the best educational outcomes for that young person. So I guess that's what working together means for me. You're working towards the best possible outcome, including everybody, but also keeping, for our service, we always keep the young person right at the heart of everything that's happening.
Yeah, fantastic, thanks. Would you agree with that, Sandra? Is that what you see from the mediation side of things as well?
Yeah, and I guess when I was listening to SJ there as well, and I was looking at the working together, we're in, our position is we're involved once working together isn't working. I guess, we come in at that stage and we feel kind of very privileged in the role that we have, because we come in as independent, an independent source, to be able to come in and, we really do appreciate and respect, that parents and families, and school staff who share with us, when things aren't working well together. But what we're very aware of is the stress and the impact that has on everybody involved, but ultimately, on the child or what the child, whatever it is that the disputes around about the plan, the placing request, whatever it may be. So yeah, I guess from our perspective, it's looking at when things aren't working together, where being able to spend time with people and help to try and assist to move that forward. Sometimes the young people are involved, sometimes it's just the adults that are involved to start with, and then the young people can be involved. I always say mediations, is a very flexible, it can be a very flexible process, but it's there to support everybody to get back to this, everybody on the same plate, I guess, because ultimately if we're not on the same plate, then, we're not working together, and the young person isn't getting supported,
Yeah, exactly. It is that, at Enquire we hear a lot about the difficulties that people are facing in terms of getting their child the right support. And quite often when you boil it down, it boils down to we're not listening to each other, or we're not hearing each other, or there's some kind of difficulty between us that's causing this tension, and whether that's with the child and the school, or the school and the parents, or it's quite often about those relationships, which leads really nicely actually into the next question. which is about the number of people involved in making decisions. Working together can be quite complicated if you're dealing with, you know, more than one parent, or the school, or maybe social work, or mental health support, or speech and language therapy, or, you know, there can often be lots of people involved in making decisions about children's education. So what do you do in your work that makes sure that the children and young people are kept at the centre, that, you know, their rights and their needs are able to be focused on, and that everybody knows the right way forward for them? Sandra, do you want to go first this time?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, without going into the whole process of mediation, but you know that ultimately most people may know something about mediation, maybe not all, but our aim in mediation is, one of the main focuses is when we get to the stage of having a mediated meeting, we're very you know, we impress on people. We don't want a great big meeting. We don't want, you know, lots and lots of people there. What we need is the key people at that meeting that are involved in the conflict or dispute that we're dealing with for that unique case. So often we don't have lots of people at the table, but it's the people who are at the table are the important people. You know, the parent knows the child best, whoever's the key person in school, or if the dispute's to do with a local authority, then it's somebody from the local authority. But from our perspective, having somebody, we would want at any mediation meeting, we want people who can make decisions as well about the particular conflict that's going on, because I think people will probably be quite aware that, you know, there can be lots of meetings, but then there aren't, you know, there may be no outcomes or decisions made. So, you know, we're very focused on the fact that mediation is about finding some kind of way forward. So we need people to be at that meeting that can make the decision about the particular things we're talking about. And, you know, I heard you saying there, you know, Beth, about there being all these people involved with young people, and often there is a lot of people involved. But sometimes you just have to narrow that down to the people who can make the decisions about what can make things move forward, because mediation is a forward look at making things move forward, accepting why we've got to the stage we've got to with the conflict, but actually focusing on the future.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's a great answer. A quick question has come up in the chat, so I'll just answer it. Is Resolve funded by local authorities? Yes, it is. For the most part, every local authority has to provide a mediation service. So Resolve does that for a huge chunk of the local authorities in Scotland, but every local authority has a mediation service that you are able to access if you need it. That's right, is it, Sandra?
It is, it absolutely is. They do have to, local authorities have to buy in mediation, but we are an independent service. I mean, we're not there, even though local authorities have got a duty to have a mediation service. That does not mean that we're on the, you know, we're working for the local authority. We are an independent service.
Yeah, thanks, Sandra. So SJ, that question to you then about when there's lots of people involved, how do you make sure that the child's needs are going to be met, that everybody can come to an agreement?
Yeah, absolutely. And it might help if I explain a little bit about how independent advocacy works with children and young people, because sometimes, you know, people might have used independent advocacy for their own situations, or an elderly parent. With children and young people's independent advocacy, it's a completely sort of separate service, if you like. The independent advocacy is only for the child or young person. So while a parent or carer might make that referral rather, the service is just for the young person, so they get to build up their own unique individual relationship with the advocacy worker. So that's whether they're working on you know, education issues, mental health issues. That's how it works. We go really above and beyond at referral stage to try and find out as much information to be able to build up that unique relationship with a young person. And I guess to answer the question about what we do in our work to make sure children and young people are kept at the centre, is that once we've built up that relationship and the young person feels able to trust us, we go and represent their views, whether the young person wants us there to support them, whether they want us to attend school meetings or email school or speak to their teacher on their behalf without them there, and then report back to them. We work essentially for the young person in that regard, and keeping them at the centre of decisions is crucial. We don't comment on anything else that's going on in a situation. We don't assign blame. We don't look at situations and come at it from our own personal perspective. It's all about how the young person sees it. And I think sometimes the way we explain it to young people and the way it can be the most powerful for other professionals to understand is, if you walk into a school meeting and there's a social worker, your guidance teacher, your head of year, your parent, you know, and any other myriad of professionals that might be there, and even if you know deep down this isn't going to work for me, or I don't like this plan that they're putting in place, how difficult for that is it for a young person to be able to voice that when you perceive everybody else in that room as an expert and a professional, even though it's your plan. We're there to make sure that the young person's views are heard and that the young person is kept at the centre of these decisions, because that is it's crucial to making sure that the young person gets the best out of the situation. It might be an education situation, it might be, you know, a social work meeting, a mental health meeting, anything, but we're there to make sure that their views are heard and understood and taken into account.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that there is that, it's difficult to imagine being a young person in, you know, it's can be intimidating for a parent or a carer to go into those meetings, or for professionals to be having to have these difficult conversations with families as well. So to be a young person in that situation can be really difficult. And I think advocacy is one great way that we can reconsider what that space might feel like, or support a young person to have their say. But you know, everybody involved in those decisions and those meetings, and you know how that is set up, is able to have those conversations. So I know on the helpline we speak to some families where the young person is really keen to go to meetings, has lots to say, happy to be there, and other young people that couldn't think of anything worse would hate to sit in a really awful serious business meeting and try and express themselves, and they don't have to. You know, young people have the right to have their views heard, but it's up to them how that is for them. So advocacy is certainly one way they can do it. And we know on the helpline we hear that children and young people will tell their parents what they want to say, or maybe they'll write down what they'd like to share, or if they've got a particular member of staff at school that they really get on with, that they really trust, they can sort of advocate for them too. So as we've kind of touched on before, it's finding the right way for that individual child or young person to be heard, and then to make those decisions based on what they say, as well as, you know, the advice and the ideas from parents and professionals as well. So gonna stick together a couple of questions here. In both of your experiences, what things can make communication with schools feel difficult for parents and carers and for children and young people? But what have you found as well? What's helpful to help build positive relationships, or to turn those relationships around if communication has become difficult? Sandra, what would you say to that?
Yeah, there's lots, and I think I could run way over our time we've got here to talk today. But I guess one of the key things for me that I would like to just pull out on is this: it's time to listen. And I'm just looking at your you know, the slide you've got up there about this listening. We as time's going on, I've been doing this for many years, and one of the things that I see as a resource that's getting less and less and less is time. And you know, everybody's, you know, very busy. Schools are getting busier, everything's getting busier, and you know, I think that you know, communication and the time to have even the informal chats between families and schools, even, you know, on the pickups, you know, the different types of things, that can, you know, impact when things aren't going well, because the relationships maybe of the informal chats that aren't there, and a bit, the basis of that's not there. So one of the things that we see, and I think one of the, from our service point of view, the feedback we get, but also that I feel we can offer, is given, you know, we organise the mediation meetings, we organise the time, you know, to meet with parents and families beforehand, we meet with the school staff beforehand individually, then a mediation meeting. But it's giving people a safe space with somebody there to facilitate time to talk, time to have, you talk about what the issue is, not go over maybe and over what's happened, but actually talk about what it is and how can we move this forward in, as I say, a safe space, but also there's the time to listen to each other and, you know, put aside what's, you know, maybe from staff point of view, they've got their hours set aside. They don't have to take the notes, you know, we're there to take that. They can actually focus on what the issue is. And from parents' points of view, you know, we've met with them beforehand. We've focused on what are the really key things you want to speak about here. What are the things that are so important to you and to your young person and your child? And let's focus on that and move that forward, because we know, as you know, everybody knows in conflict, it gets bigger and bigger, and we lose the kind of key things in there. And what is it that you really want to tell the other person, or the other side as such, so that, again, going back to my saying before about how do we get back on the same plate here to move forward. So yeah, I guess I know it's not some great big rocket science, but that, time and listening, I think, is just so important. And if we have to carve out that time through mediation, then that's what we can do.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also that consideration of other people's time, making sure that there's an understanding of, families are very busy, there's a lot going on, but professionals are very busy too. If you've got a class, they reckon now that 1/3 of children in mainstream school have got additional needs. So if you're a teacher, that's a lot of young people with needs that you need to consider, and setting aside that time can be difficult. And of course, professionals are working to do the best they can, but I think reflecting on that from the parent side is like an understanding of the work that goes into all this care, but then the professionals similarly thinking about that, the impact of spending that time with families or with the young people themselves.
Yeah.
What do you think, SJ? Do you agree?
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, communication is key. I think also so is, for parents and young people, knowing your rights, not feel intimidated, not feeling talked down to, get into these sorts of relationships. And absolutely spot on. Professionals are so limited in the time that they have. As a resource, teachers, support assistants and things who are facilitating that are really stretched, but they're also there to do the best job for the young person, and that has to be looked at as well. I noticed somebody had popped in the chat, it can absolutely all be undone with, if a professional doesn't know a young person's plan, and that's happened, time after time. It's about using the knowledge of that young person and being able to support them in the right way, and that can help, if a parent or a young person knows their rights when these things haven't been followed. And good communication, as always, comes down to relationships. A good guidance teacher, pastoral care teacher, or someone who understands can make or break that stressful situation for a parent or a young person. And it is really difficult, but that's why there's supports and things out there for families and young people to be able to access that support when it's not going right. But when it does go right, it alleviates so much stress.
Yeah, definitely. We are fast running out of time, so we're going to jump to our final question, which is your final top tip, piece of advice, word of wisdom for working together. Obviously, it's very easy to sum up all your professional expertise and knowledge into one sentence. So that's your challenge. SJ, do you want to go first?
Yeah, the most challenging question, one sentence. I would say it's about relationships, it's about communication, it's about building as much as you can and knowing what to do when things go wrong. But for working together, it's look at everybody else's point of view, consider everybody else's point of view, but look at the main issue that you're facing and always consider the young person and what their needs are within that.
Perfect. Thanks, SJ. What about you, Sandra? What's your final thoughts?
Well, I'm glad, SJ, that it was more than one sentence, because I'm not good at one sentence at all. That's my biggest problem. I think I talk too much, but no, absolutely support what you're saying there too. But it's, I think for me, and the people that we work with in mediation, and this is for families and for staff, is sometimes it's about just taking a wee step back and a big breath before you go into asks about something, particularly if it's something that you're worried about or that you feel particularly passionate about, because you need to just rethink how you're going to be saying things in the first instance and how it might come across, because that's often where, you know, disputes start way back at the beginning. However, and also I think another tip I would say is write down the questions you want to ask before you're maybe going to speak to somebody, even if it's on the phone, because I think you can get pulled away into, you know, a discussion, and then you come off and think, oh, I didn't ask these different questions and different things. So yeah, general tips, I guess, but keep talking, and you know, that if the communication's going, there's always room to make sure that things will work and get fixed. And if communication gets stuck, we're around to help. We are here.
Yeah, perfect. No, thank you very much. Let me share just one more time that screen with all our information on. So as we've said, hopefully some of that advice and those tips and tricks have been helpful in helping you to think a bit more about what it means to work together, both with parents and carers and with professionals. And like we say, that working together can include other people. If you need support to do that, there is support there for you. We're very, very grateful for Sandra and SJ coming along. Thanks very much for all your expertise and advice. All our contact information is there. So as we've said, mediation services are available in every local authority. Resolve does a big chunk of those. If you would like to find out more about mediation, you can check it out on our website. I should have said so at the beginning, but my very helpful colleague Hannah has been posting a few links into the chat. So we'll post in where you can find our useful organisation search. You can use that to find mediation services. You can also find partners in advocacy and other advocacy services. There's condition-specific services too. There's loads of places that you can go to for support if you need support. One of those places is Enquire, and you know, I am from Enquire, so I should shout us out too. We've got loads of information on our websites for Enquire for parents, carers and professionals, and Reach for children and young people. Definitely worth having a look at. It's new and fresh, and I think it looks great. In particular, based on the conversations we've been having today, we've got a whole section on working with schools for parents that's worth looking at. There's one in particular that I would suggest, a page called Getting the Most from Meetings, and that page is what it says on the tin. It's all about, if you're in those conversations, communicating with the school, some tips and advice of how you can do that in the best way. A lot of that stuff is stuff that Sandra and SJ have covered themselves as well. Enquire also has a helpline. If you would like to get in touch with us and talk things through with one of our advisor team, you can give us a call, but we've also got web form and web chat, and you can email us at that email address there as well. And if you would like to stay up to date with stuff that's going on, you can do that by following us on our social media, and we've also got a newsletter you can sign up to at the link there. Just before you go, we do have a poll. Hannah, if you could launch the poll. We'd just like to know what you think about this new format. Did it work for you? What do you think? Should we do it again, basically? We're going to send a quick follow-up on the Eventbrite to ask you a few more in-depth questions, and we'd really, really appreciate your feedback. We want to, you know, be offering outreach things that are worthwhile to you, that are helpful and useful and valuable. So any information and feedback that you have is much appreciated. But yeah, we hope you've enjoyed the session today. We hope you've got a lot from it. And thanks again to Sandra and SJ for their input, and to Hannah behind the scenes for all her chat and IT wizardry. But yeah, have a lovely day, and we'll hopefully see you at the next lunchtime listen. Thanks very much, everybody.